What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, it is your boy Manta, and it is our first episode of retro reviews. So there's a ton of games that I missed out on, either from not having the money from my childhood, or just games that I just fell through the cracks. So I wanted to start this series of retro reviews as I'm playing through some games in my backlog, or just games that kind of missed from the last, we'll say 15 to 20 years, maybe creep into that 10-year range. But for right now, we're going to stay in that kind of 20-ish year range. And today we're talking about none other than Shadow the Hedgehog right here. We got it complete in box as well on the GameCube. So you got the manual there, as well as the GameCube disc. And I was playing this on the Wii, and then streaming it up to the computer so it could capture some gameplay footage, as you'll see in this video. So Shadow's having a crazy year, coming off of being in Sonic Prime on Netflix, and then we also had the Sonic and Shadow Generations game, which I have right here, just picked up on Black Friday for I think $30 or $20 actually. And of course, with the Sonic movie coming out this weekend, I thought it was appropriate that I put this review out. So just some background on the game. So this game did come out around 20 years ago, came out in 2005, and it was part of that great Gen 6 generation, which was the PS2, the GameCube, and the original Xbox. Now, what was really interesting, I didn't know this until I looked it up, but apparently this game, so it was going to have a T for teen rating, because it actually ended up getting an E 10 plus, which is for everyone 10 plus, but that rating actually only existed the year that this game came out. So it was actually almost a T for teen game, but then the ESRB ended up having that E 10 plus, which you'll see on certain games like Zelda and stuff like that, where there's fantasy violence, maybe certain strong language and things like that. And what was crazy about this game is the fact that it does have some, he says like damn whenever he dies and stuff like that, or he says it'll send you straight to hell. Like it definitely was more mature, and the creators of the game definitely wanted to have a more mature Sonic game. And what was also crazy was the fact that Shadow originally was only supposed to be a one-off character in Sonic Adventure 2, which is where we were introduced to him from. But he was so popular, they decided not only was he brought back in Sonic Heroes 2 years later, but they gave him his own game. And obviously, like I said, more mature, guns, violence, stuff like that. And it's really crazy how this game really came about. Now, the story of the game is kind of interesting, because there's not one real, well, there is a final story essentially, but obviously I'll leave that for y'all to look up. But basically the way they had this story told was in 10 different ways. So there's 10 different endings in this game, technically 11, because you need to do all 10 to then get the final one, which I didn't play through, but you just look it up on YouTube if you want to, because I'll be honest, the game's not that long. It was probably only 4 hours or a little less than that for me to play through it one time. I did play through, let's say 2.5 times, because realistically, it's very hard to, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the gameplay and structure section, but it's hard to kind of get through each playthrough, because you have to start from the first level. You can't just pick a level and then go from there. But the story is really Shadow, after he fell from, he was supposed to die, before they decided to bring him back. After he falls from the space colony arc in Sonic Adventure 2, he has no memory of anything. He has like bits and pieces, and then he's approached by this Black Doom alien. They made him an alien, but I'm almost positive, like, if this was a different series, if it wasn't trying to be family friendly, it was going to make him a demon. He's basically like a demon or devil or whatever. And these aliens they call them black creatures, which sounds crazy throughout the game as they're saying it.
Looks like these black creatures really mean business. I don't know who or what these black creatures are, but we can't let them get away with this.
Hey, Shadow! You saw them too, didn't you? Those black creatures floating around here?
Yeah, there are black creatures everywhere around here. It's so exciting.
They're kind of taking over the planet and different cities and things like that. And Shadow's like, okay, I'm trying to get answers. So that's where the story kind of goes between, 3 different ways. You have your normal missions that you can go through. You have your hero missions, and then you can go through the, the dark missions that way if you decide to do so. And of course, you can do all of them if you want to. Now, for those unfamiliar with Shadow's story, of course, he was created 50 years ago with a mix between DNA from Gerald Robotnik, who is Dr. Robotnik, Eggman's grandfather, and then also from Black Doom, the alien that is kind of trying to get in the Shadow's ear and have him do his bidding for him. And that's kind of what everybody's doing throughout the game, is trying to get you to go down that path. So like I said, you got to go through 10 different storylines to get to that final actual story. But we'll talk about the gameplay. So the gameplay of the game, if you ever played a 3D Sonic game from, Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, it's pretty much that same formula. Even some of the sounds is the same. It's actually funny when you go through the menu and you confirm an action, it's always like this gunshot, which is crazy. Like they lean very heavily in the guns in this. And what I really like about the gameplay is the fact that, yes, you have your regular 3D platforming and running around collecting rings and things like that, and homing attacks and stuff like that we're used to. But what I really like was the addition of these weapons. Yeah, and it's not just, oh, you get a pistol. Like that's what everybody thought, like, oh, you just get a pistol and you're just shooting people up. It's like you have the alien weapons. You can unlock different weapons. Like when I beat the game, I got a Ome Chow like ricochet shooter gun that you got. There are rocket launchers. There's also different like vehicles or mechs that you can use to traverse through the level. Some of them you really need to get through the level, some of them you don't, but like you can drive different vehicles. You can have mechs that have you jump really high. There are these like Beyblade spinning top type things. Like there's a lot, but the basic structure of each level is there are 3 missions more or less in each one. So you can either go the evil way, the hero way, or just the normal get to the end of the thing, and you'll be met by either Eggman or Black Doom. For the evil stuff, you'll have the normal mission, which is normally just get to the end or get the Chaos Emerald. And then you also have the, the hero mission, which is, hey, destroy all the aliens or black creatures, as they're called. Again, sounds crazy when they're saying it, but destroy all the black creatures. And you'll have like a counter or whatever. And I thought this was a really cool addition and like approach to the game to change up the formula. And like to think about it, again, this was 20 years ago, but it had its, pros and cons. The pros were the fact that it added, replayability to the game, not just, having you run through aimlessly. You actually had some structure. You have these different save points throughout the level that you can teleport back and forth because they know you're going to miss certain stuff and then have to go back. And again, like I said, it splits into different storylines. As y'all can see, there's different branches throughout the story depending on how you end the level. And honestly, you can go through and just kill everything for the most part, and whatever one you get to first, or when you press pause, you can switch which mission you actually want to pursue. And if you get stuck between like, oh, which path do I need to go to get to the next level that I haven't touched yet, you can actually do that from the pause menu as well. But the thing with this that I didn't like was the fact that for certain levels, like it's easy, you go through, if you miss something, you just go back to the beginning and kind of search around and find the things you didn't find or destroy the enemies that you didn't destroy. The issue I had with it was the fact that a lot of times there was like a finite amount of enemies. Sometimes I think there was like the exact amount of enemies to find. And if you were on a level like anything on the Space Colony arc, anything like that, it's not very linear. So you're going through a bunch of different like secret rooms, and there's no, like I said, no marker or map. Like it's not an RPG where you're like, mapping stuff out and everything like that. So you're kind of just aimlessly running around. Like there was one level I was going around for like 2 hours just to find 3 more enemies to complete the mission. And I was like, I just couldn't do it. And that's kind of why I didn't end up doing all the endings. And like I said, with all the branching ways to finish the game, there's a whopping 23 different stages. So I didn't even see all the stages. So, but like that's more than any Sonic game. Even in Sonic Adventure 2, like I always loved playing in the Sonic and Shadow levels, but realistically, that's probably only 4 or 5 out of the story, because you also have to play as, Knuckles, Tails, Rouge the Bat, and Eggman. But the fact that there's 23 levels and like over 300 different combinations of how you can go through the levels is actually insane that they jam-packed that all into this game. And throughout the game, you're pretty much like, you're an anti-hero, but you're almost public enemy number one for, you know, you're fighting Gun, you're fighting, or GUN if you want to call that, you're fighting technically the, you know, Eggman's forces, you're fighting the Doom black creatures and aliens, stuff like that. Like, there's a lot going on in this game, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I think it, you know, it's all for the better. So, you know, I tried to, for this review or any of the retro reviews I'm going to do, I wanted to try and think of the game as if I played it when it came out, basically, which is kind of hard to do, but it's not fair to judge a bunch of retro games based on how the industry was back then, because there are a lot of things, if you play RPGs from back then, there's a lot of quality of life issues going on. There's a lot of, you know, when it comes to 3D Sonic games, like, I'll be honest, there's parts where I was falling off, or, you know, controls weren't responding the right way, or you're just going, you get hit and then you fall off a cliff. And then when it comes to doing some of those challenges I mentioned, now you got to go through a bunch of those again from whatever you saved last, which is when you found a save point. So there are a limited amount of times you can do that. Yeah, you get a bunch of lives, but again, it's easy to fall off. So if I was going to say to recommend it to someone, would I recommend it? I think if you're a fan of Sonic games, especially 3D games or some of the older like Adventure, even Heroes, maybe even Sonic Colors and things like that, and you're just going into it with an open mind of, hey, this is going to have some jank to it. This is going to have, you know, little bad camera angles at times, like stuff like that, that I just accept because I'm used to it when it comes to some of these games. Then yeah, I'd say I recommend it. I think I like all the stage variety. You're playing in burning cities, you're playing through temples, you're playing through like casino type areas, you're playing through airships, you're playing through the internet at one point. Like, it's, the variety is there, the types of enemies and ways to go about it, the amount of stages, Crush 40s on the soundtrack, of course. So I think, you know, it's pretty good. I do want to at some point get through all 10 of the storylines. I just, like I said, some of the cumbersome parts about completing some of the challenges on certain stages, and the fact that I think this part was kind of bad game design. The fact that they had it where you can go through stages in different trees and things like that, but they don't have the option of starting for whatever level you want to, is that was bad decision for them. I don't know if they thought about it or not, but the fact that you have to literally start from the beginning in Westopolis just to get through the whole tree from the beginning is crazy, especially when you get near the end where there's only like one or two choices to get to whatever alternate ending, and you have to start all from the beginning just to do that. It's not good, but either way, I think it's great. It's a great game. I have nostalgia goggles, so I can say I like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 better, but I think as a game, it is better than those. Like, it is probably the apex of those early 2000s 3D Sonic games, and I think everybody should give it a chance. So shout out to Hedgehog, definitely gets the seal of approval from me. Definitely check it out. I can't wait to also get into this right here. Like I said, Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. Definitely check it out. Sonic Generations is great too. So Shadow's having a great year, and you know, the movie comes out this weekend. I'll be doing a review on that too, so stay tuned for that. But that's all I got on this. Appreciate you guys coming through. Leave a like on this video, subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you on the next.